Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's me, Niall, just here giving a quick reaction to what we've just seen from Tokyo, Japan, as Brian Norman Jr. has successfully made the second defense of his WBO welterweight world title as he's brutally knocked out and massively outmatched and overpowered JIN SASAKI in round five after a dominating performance right from the beginning of the fight. Yeah, maintains his unbeaten record, keeps his world title, and yeah, I'll be giving my thoughts on what we've seen and what might be next. But yeah, just before we get into it, if you haven't already, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy the content and follow us on all social media platforms. So yeah, Brian Norman Jr., as decisive as it gets, that one. Wow. Brutal knockout. But as I said, right from the beginning of the fight, it was just pure domination. Inside a minute, Brian Norman Jr. drops Jin Sasaki with a big left hand. And yeah, that was the start of it there, to be honest with you. What you noticed first, to be honest, was the size difference. It looked like these two, when they kind of stood side by side in the ring, looked like they were one or even two weight classes apart. Brian Norman, bullishly strong, so quick, so spiteful. Yeah, dropped Sasaki inside the first minute, and then dropped him again in the first round with a flurry, a spiteful flurry of shots. And it looked like it would have been over in round one, to be quite honest with you. Credit to Sasaki, getting dropped twice in the first round against a big puncher, a vicious puncher, and he didn't go into survival mode. He gave it a go. He came to win. He stuck it on Brian Norman Jr. He gave it the come on, the taunting Norman Jr. But he was just massively outmatched here. It's one of the most one-sided world title fights you'll ever see. Norman Jr. was just too strong, too quick, too vicious for Sasaki, and he was doing what he wants with him when he wanted with him. Yeah, just utter domination. I think the fight then should have been stopped in the third round, to be quite honest with you. Sasaki looked badly hurt, even though he didn't get dropped again. He looked badly hurt, stumbling back to the ropes. He was kind of giving it large to Norman Jr., telling him to come on. But I think it almost looked like Norman Jr. was kind of feeling sorry for him a little bit, that he didn't properly put his foot down and go for the kill. But yeah, I think the corner or the ref should have stopped it in that third round, to be quite honest with you. It was just he was on a hiding to nothing right from the start of this fight. And then round five comes and it's a KO of the year contender. A huge left hand puts the lights out on Sasaki before he even hits the ground. Brutal knockout. Back of the head hits the canvas, out cold, and Brian Norman Jr. retains his title. As I say, that'll be a knockout of the year contender, but it was all over from the first minute of that fight, really. It was a mismatch. And Sasaki is a decent fighter, but Brian Norman Jr. now, the question will be what's next? 28 and 0 now, 22 knockouts, the WBO welterweight world champion. And to be honest with you, with the huge news yesterday that Jerome Boots Ennis, the consensus best welterweight in the world, is moving up to super welterweight now. The IBF and WBA title holder is moving up. So I think, to be honest with you, Brian Norman Jr. is the best welterweight in the world. With Ennis gone, I really do. What's impressed me most about Brian Norman Jr. is how much he's improving fight by fight. I used to not really be rate Norman Jr. that highly. I thought he was very defensively sloppy and very easily hit, but he's improving fight by fight massively. We've seen it against Santian, we've seen it against Derek Cuevas then in his first defense, and we've seen it tonight. That was probably the best he's ever looked. He was punch perfect tonight, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, that rate of improvement. He's still only young too, at 24. It's such a positive sign. I just think he's a real problem for anybody now in the welterweight division that's not the greatest. As I say, he's bullishly strong. He's very fast, and when he has you hurt, his killer instinct is top class. It's phenomenal. So I'd love to see, of course, unification fights. We've got Pacquiao against Barrios coming up. Barrios seen as the quote unquote weakest world champion, the WBC title holder. I think Brian Norman Jr. does beat him. I think Barrios beats Pacquiao and Norman would beat Barrios. And then you've got other very interesting options. You've got the possibility of a Stanionis fight. Of course, Stanionis widely out beaten by Jaron Ennis, dominated by the phenomenal Boots Ennis. I think Norman Jr. and Stanionis will be an absolute firefight. That'll be a dream fight. And then, of course, you got a fascinating clash that could be for world title honours. For an IBF title, Lewis Crocker or Paddy Donovan in their rematch looks like it's going to be for a world title now. So, yeah, the Crocker Donovan winner, you'd have to imagine it's Paddy Donovan based on how that first fight went. Paddy Donovan against Brian Norman Jr. Phenomenal clash of styles. You've got the slick boxing, slick movement of Paddy Donovan, and you've got the aggression, the speed, the power of Brian Norman Jr. That'd be fascinating, fascinating fight. But I have to say, you know, I'd pick Brian Norman Jr. to beat them all. As of what we've seen so far, I really would. I just think, as I say, he's improving fight by fight, and he is now, in my opinion, the best welterweight in the world. So hopefully we get to see him unify the division, whether that be against Barrios or other names I've mentioned, Stanionis, Crocker, Donovan, names like that, because the world is he has the world at his feet. This kid, 24 years old, as I said, not even near his prime yet, and an undefeated world champion. Yeah, his stock is massively, massively going up fight by fight. So yeah, that was just my quick reaction to what we've seen from Tokyo, Japan this morning, as Brian Norman Jr. has dominated and brutally stopped the game, JIN SASAKI in 5 rounds to keep hold of his WBO world title. World welterweight title, and maintain his unbeaten record to leave himself on the verge of big, big fights at 147 pounds. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. What did you make of that performance and stunning knockout? And yeah, do you agree with me in that Brian Norman is now the best welterweight in the world with Jaron Ennis gone from the division seemingly? Let us know what you think, what you'd like to see next as well for Brian Norman Jr. Yeah, get involved down below in the comments. And of course, as I said at the start of the video, please, if you're not doing so already, we'd appreciate it if you could drop a like on this video first of all, subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing, and follow us on all social media. Until next time, take care.